No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. With Dave Manouk, with Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel, here to discuss the Winnipeg Jets and the Dallas Stars, an entertaining contest for the final 43 minutes and 10 seconds. The opening 20 minutes was a little bit on the dull side, but it certainly picked up after that first period. Alas, for Winnipeg Jets fans, the team falls on the short end of the ledger, losing 4-3 in overtime after battling back and tying the game with 32 seconds to go. Gentlemen, good to see you on this Friday evening. You know, the Jets are a team that, they couldn't afford to lose in regulation and not get any points, but they're also at the point where they needed the clean 2 points, and that's sort of why the loss tonight probably hurts a little bit more than a typical overtime loss.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's bittersweet, right? Like they battle back, and Scheifele scores with 30 seconds left, but then they can't get the bonus point, right? And I really thought that the Jets deserved a victory in this game, and Scheifele had an unbelievable chance early in the overtime period. Not sure how long Scheifele and Wheeler were out there, but I mean that shift at the end was just ridiculous. You could see Wheeler's legs were barely even moving. It was a pretty bad line change, but he had to get off the ice. And then obviously Kyle Connor turns the puck over a little bit, but Scheifele is kind of flying the zone. I'm not sure what was going on there, but so defensive coverage was an issue, I thought. Again tonight, like look at the Tyler Seguin goal, right? Like you can look at the Neil Pionk turnover in the neutral zone, but you could also, focus in on Scheifele, who's just kind of, slowly getting back into the zone. And, because it becomes an odd man rush for the Stars, right? Scheifele is just not there with Seguin, and Seguin just has all the time in the world. And it's just a tap in, not a tap in, just an empty net goal for him. It was an easy one is what I'm trying to say. So yeah. I think you like Pierre-Luc Dubois scored a beautiful goal. And, like we talked about, you like the fact that, you stayed in the fight, as we used to say a lot last year, and you like Dave, how they tied the game up. By the way, does Dave have a fog light on him right now? Because I don't think I've ever seen Dave that bright right now. It's kind of tripping me out a little bit, but I'm not sure what the lighting situation is up there, Dave. But yeah, the Jets, I think, for the most part, played a good game. I agree, Drew. The first period was as boring as it gets. I mean, there was a really good chance for Jamie Benn, and then Pierre-Luc Dubois had a really good chance on the power play. By the way, Pierre-Luc Dubois looks like he didn't miss any hockey at all. It's unbelievable. I thought he was the best forward on the Jets tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. I would agree with that assessment. He was out there doing what he does game in and game out, throwing his body around, obviously getting on the scoreboard with the opening goal on a swell deflection of the Nate Schmidt point shot. Pierre-Luc Dubois, to your point, as he looked like he didn't miss a beat, Dave. This is. I was talking to a buddy who was messaging me during the game. You have to admire Mark Scheifele for his consistency at this point in time. He's just not going to change. Nothing, no matter how many defensive breakdowns, no matter how many times he watches it on video where he doesn't hustle back, it doesn't seem like it's going to make a difference. I'm not saying that was the reason the Jets lost tonight's game, but it certainly was a reason why they had to have that uphill climb that they were fortunate to get into overtime before losing an OT, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question about that, Drew. And I'm a man of the people. Alan wanted me to go warm, so I went with a warm light as opposed to the cold
Turn down
light.
the brightness, Manouk. Come on.
What do you mean? Now it's fine, isn't it?
You're fine, Dave. Just keep going.
Anywho, I've tried to be a bright light on this show sometimes, but look, I mean, this was a game that you came into it 5 points back of Dallas. You knew you needed the points. So as you just said, you needed a clean 2 points. Getting one is better than zero, which you were 32 seconds away from getting. Or not getting. So, I mean, you'll take it, but it's not ideal. You had kind of a similar situation as what happened in Pittsburgh, right? You're playing a solid second period, and then you kind of have a brain fart or two, and then suddenly those end up in the back of your net, and it's 2-1, and you're clutching your sticks a little bit because all of a sudden, what's going on? And then the Jets fight back and they tie it, and suddenly, especially in that third, you look like, okay, they've got a little more jump. They're looking like the better of the two teams. But I mean, and that third goal wasn't a great one by Ben that goes in off him. But I think you're happy to at least salvage something, because you're like we've talked about for a long time now. This team is no longer in a position to give away points. Now they did tonight, but they're certainly not in any position to have no points in contests. So, I mean, it's not ideal. It's kind of like a false victory, but it's something that you can at least hang your hat on and say, well, you're not going to Nashville, which is going to be a tough game, with 0. But I mean, the problem for you is you came into the game 5 points back of Dallas, who isn't close to the playoff line, and now you're leaving the game 6 points back of Dallas, and you're still not any closer to the playoff line. So, or maybe you are. I haven't looked to see where they are exactly, but I think Calgary.
There's still some teams in between them. I mean, I suppose that's the only aspect of the game that you can sort of be a little bit happy with if you're a Jets players. There's so many teams between you and the playoffs that you have gained at least on a team like the San Jose Sharks, who are technically ahead of you, and the Anaheim Ducks, who are actually playing right now. Last I checked, they were tied 2-2 against the Kraken. So you have yes, you wanted the clean 2 points, and you need every clean 2 points that you can possibly get between now and the end of the regular season to even have a sniff at the playoffs. But at least you gained that one by not losing in regulation, and by earning that 1 point, you have at least gained a little bit of ground against a team like the San Jose Sharks. And when the standings get updated, you'll be a little bit closer, and you'll have a higher points percentage than the Sharks, than the Sharks currently do, which is you had before the game started, but you'll be a little bit higher than them and everything else. So that's the only, I guess, saving grace about losing in overtime to a Dallas Stars team, is there's a number of teams you're trying to catch up to, not only Dallas.
You got 1 point. I mean, it's just not enough, as you mentioned earlier, Drew, right? Like, Dave just said it's better than no points, which is, Captain Obvious. But what Dave is trying to say is, like, you were able to get something out of this game. If you lose in regulation, I mean, that would have just been devastating, right? Second game of a back-to-back coming back, and basically your season's kind of on the line. You're not catching Nashville, but Dallas is a team in your division that you can actually catch. And, Drew brings up, San Jose and Anaheim. I mean, these are the teams that they're battling with, right? Like, we've been talking about it for a few weeks now. The Jets are not going to be a team that gets into a top 3 spot or even top 4 spot in the Central, right? But, it goes back to what I said. And, you get a goal from Jansen Harkins, who I thought played a real good game. But, I was a little bit confused with the line combinations that, Dave Lowry threw out, the line blender. Cole Perfetti moves down. I mean, Cole Perfetti had a beautiful pass on the Harkins goal. I mean, we all saw it. I mean, these are the reasons why Perfetti, those types of plays are the reason why, he's sticking in the NHL after spending, the majority of the first half of the season in the AHL, right? Like, you can't send a guy back that makes that type of play and which leads to a goal, right? So I didn't necessarily like that. I mean, like, I would like to see Perfetti out at 3-on-3 overtime, for example. Like, obviously, that's easy for us to sit here and say that, guys. I mean, you've got like a 20-year-old who has all the skill in the world, but I mean, don't you want to see him out there at 3-on-3? And obviously, Scheifele is going to get out there. Connor is going to get out there. The Jets have no shortage of talented forwards, but, it goes back to what I said before. We talked about the Sagan goal, but even on the Peterson goal, the first goal, I mean, it's just, defensive coverage, like Morrissey and DeMello. I think it was Morrissey and DeMello, if I'm not mistaken. They both kind of go to one guy. It was just like a bit of a defensive miscommunication. And I got to say, I loved Morrissey's game. I was telling Dave, came over here in the third period, and, Morrissey, I thought was great. Like, his skating, I think, was on display tonight in a game in which, you had a few really good skaters on the back end on Dallas, right? Like, we know how good Miro Heiskanen, I think, is one of the most underrated defensemen. I think it just so happens that, he was drafted right around Cale Makar, right? I think it was 3 and 4, if I'm not mistaken. So I think he gets overshadowed a little bit by Makar. I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but I thought Morrissey was good. But again, it's just the margin for error for this Jets team, especially when, Hellebuck isn't, shutting out the other team and making, ridiculous saves. Like tonight, he wasn't terrible. I don't think, especially the first 2 goals, I didn't think, it was his fault at all. Maybe, the Jamie Benn goal, it's a little bit of a soft one, but it was a deflection and it just trickles in. But I just thought, again, it's the defensive shortcomings of this team were on display again. And right now they just can't afford that type of stuff. And say whatever you want about Dallas, but Dallas has dangerous goal scorers, right? Like Rupe Hintz, Jason Robertson, Tyler Seguin, even though he's having a bit of a down year. Jamie Benn, same thing. Ben and Seguin have actually been pretty average this year, but they're a dangerous team. And I think, again, the Jets, those defensive mistakes just, came back to haunt them again.
You mentioned Cole Perfetti, Ezzy, and, Cole Perfetti had 2 shifts in the third period total. And the last shift he had in the second period was what led to the goal, the Harkins goal.
Yep.
So I was, unless there was an injury, but I don't think there would have been, because why would he have played at all in the third period if it was injury related, Dave? But the usage of Cole Perfetti and dropping him down in the lineup, and I understand rewarding Jansen Harkins because he played well and he got the goal, but he was teed up for the goal by a very nice pass from Perfetti. So I'm unclear what Dave Lowry didn't like in Perfetti's game through the first 40 minutes that resulted in him making that switch and sort of relegating him to that fourth line where, with a guy like, even Christian Reichel had more shifts in the third period. He was playing a regular shift, but playing with
Tony Nato and Svechnikov.
Yeah, Svechnikov, who had 1 shift in the third period, and then Tony Nato would have had more. Tony Nato would have more on the penalty kill. But, I just don't quite understand what the problem was from Dave Lowry's perspective.
Well, we'll hopefully hear something from Dave Lowry when he has a chance to speak. But I think it's a very valid question, Drew. I didn't see anything from Cole Perfetti's game that would necessitate him not being moved up the lineup. And as I've said for a while now, I think Cole Perfetti, you can make an argument he'd look good with Mark Scheifele, on the line. So I'm of the opinion, not that it holds a lot of water with Dave Lowry and company, but I would be of the opinion that you would be moving Cole Perfetti up, not down. I didn't think he did anything that was egregious in my mind. I'd have to, review it and see what they are seeing. But I don't know. I just see a guy or a kid who is just, continuing to contribute. And look, he's got warts like all, young players do in the NHL level. But at the same time, the kid has a lot of upside, and he sees the game in a very different way. And that pass to Jansen Harkins, like as he said, that was an all-world pass. He found the time and space, got it over to Harkins, and that was a beautiful top cheddar goal by Jansen Harkins. So kudos to him, and I agree with Ez as well in that regard. Like I thought he did deserve to move up, and I thought I liked the promotion of him. And Pierre-Luc Dubois also I thought had an excellent game. He's been on the ice one time in 10 days. So I actually thought he was excellent. He made that critical play on the overtime, to send the game to overtime. He tied up one of the Stars players, which obviously allowed Kyle Connor to get the puck back to Neil Pionk, who eventually got it over to Mark Scheifele, who tied the game. But, Pierre-Luc Dubois I thought was excellent. Brendan Dillon was excellent as well. I thought his level of physicality was exactly what this team needed. I hate that he had to answer the bell for that completely clean hit. He destroyed Klingberg in that hit. And I know I saw some of the comments in the chat saying, there's never going to be another Dustin Byfuglien, but he was kind of like a Dustin Byfuglien light, almost the way he played tonight.
Did that hit, Dave, not remind you of mid 90s, like a Rock'em Sock'em video? Like it was that type of hit, right? Like a Brian Marchment hit or something like that. Like that was
Marchment's hits would have torn up his knee.
Lower. Yeah, it would have been a little bit lower, but
it was just a good, clean, open ice hit. It was,
I just think
a bigger guy hitting a smaller guy in a clean, open ice hit.
And I think the physicality that Brendan Dillon was bringing throughout the course of the game was kind of everything, the cliche, it brought everyone into the fight. But I think he did. I think he was
literally.
Literally. But not really, because he was the only one who fought. But but I think in this instance, it was like a motivator for his team. And I think people liked, that element. So sorry, I'm getting away from the Cole Perfetti question, which is the one you asked me, Drew.
It's okay.
And yeah, I mean, I'm of the mind that, and again, like I said, I don't make the decisions, but I think you throw Cole Perfetti up with Mark Scheifele and see what he can do. I mean, I just don't see what Blake Wheeler is bringing. I'm not maligning him totally. I mean, he's only going to play where the coach tells him to play. But I mean, I would be not necessarily to start, but like at least change things up and throw Perfetti in there for a couple of shifts just to kind of see if you can get Scheifele going. But because like it's great that he scored a 6-on-5 goal, and I'm not complaining on Scheifele. I mean, the overtime wasn't great because he was flying the zone hoping to get the game winner. But Mark Scheifele didn't have a terrible game. I just think that you could have had a guy like Cole Perfetti getting him the puck. And I don't know, it just didn't seem like Blake Wheeler had it. So I'm not entirely certain why, it seems like that line is cemented and every other line can be thrown into the blender.
Yeah, I mean, especially in overtime, when Scheifele and Wheeler each get 2 shifts in overtime and Perfetti doesn't get any, I think 3-on-3, I mean, normally 3-on-3, your key guy, one of your key guys is Nikolai Ehlers. Now, he's obviously not in the lineup because of the injury. Cole Perfetti, I'm not saying he's Nikolai Ehlers because I don't think he doesn't have the skating that Ehlers has.
There's similarities, though.
Well, they're both small on the smaller side. They're both, very skilled, very smart. 3-on-3, I want to see Cole Perfetti out there in that situation to see what he can generate rather than seeing another shift from Scheifele and Wheeler. I understand Perfetti maybe not starting 3-on-3, but in that with that amount of space on the ice and with his creativity and with his smarts, his hockey smarts, I would have liked to see him get an opportunity there. I really don't quite understand the 2 shifts only in the third period. To me, that's perplexing. Given that the first 40 minutes seemed to be perfectly fine from my perspective. I certainly don't remember any glaring errors by Cole Perfetti in the first 40 minutes.
No, and that's why it was such a curious move. I don't think anybody was surprised, Drew, that Dubois moved up the lineup because we knew that he was going to be eased in, right? Like we knew he was going to be on the wing. We know it's just a matter of time before he's going to go back to playing up the middle. It might be as early as tomorrow. I wouldn't bet on it, but it's possible. Wow. And when you consider, Perfetti's past and just the way he was playing overall, but kind of, just looking at, going back to, what we were talking about with Scheifele and Wheeler, I mean, their play at 5-on-5 has been an issue for a while now, right? Like you can make an argument, they haven't been good 5-on-5 for the most part this season, right? Like a lot of damage has been done, on the power play, especially for Scheifele. But, they need to get going here. And, it goes back to what we were talking about either, this past Saturday morning show or a couple of weeks ago. Like you look at Scheifele's stat line and, he's having a decent offensive season. He's not at that point per game clip, but, his numbers are definitely, well above average, right? And again tonight, like he's got a goal and an assist. So, why are we being so critical of Scheifele? Well, I mean, on 2 goals, his defensive play was suspect, right? Like, especially in overtime, that was just too long of a shift. Like we saw Wheeler get off and Scheifele just couldn't get off, right? Certainly on the second goal, I had a big problem with that one. And again, I don't, it's not like, while these games were being played or before the games played, like, I take pleasure in having to point these things out, but it's obvious. I mean, we'll throw it to the chat here, guys, the IC chat room. Like, what do you guys think of the way Scheifele played defensively? Like on that second goal, watch the replay. Like, I just think he's much too passive. Scheifele and Seguin both start in the Jet zone, in the Dallas zone. And Scheifele's just too nonchalant. And, if he's, hard on the puck if he's just skating harder, he's probably, neck and neck with Seguin. And then he has a chance to maybe make a stick play, but he's not even in the play. So I just, even though, Scheifele ties the game up, I still don't think we're seeing the best Mark Scheifele. And Drew mentioned that last weekend, in terms of just his overall game. Like when he's on his game, he was a guy that was considered for the Canadian Olympic team. And, he's just not at that level. I think he can get to that level again. It's not like, he's towards the end of his career, but the question is, when is that going to happen? Like we're running out of games here. Like Scheifele's got to find his A game, or the Jets are going to be out of the playoffs.
There's an element of indecisiveness in his game, is what I would say. Forget about the defensive side of it, because we've acknowledged that, we've talked about it. It's apparent. But even there were times when he's at last year or 2 years ago, when he's a dominant force out there. There was a rush today. I don't think it was quite a 2-on-1, but it might have been like a 2-on-2 or a 1-on-1. And he's just not. There's no decisiveness to his game. He's peeling off, and he's waiting for line mates who aren't coming, and a situation that not necessarily was dangerous, but a situation where a guy like Scheifele with his talent could turn it into a dangerous play. Instead, it just goes off onto the sidewall where it's basically harmless for anybody. There's just not that. I don't get the sense that he's playing, Dave, with the confidence and the decisiveness and the almost the get the bleep out of my way attitude that the best players can play, where they're one-on-one against the defender and they say, I'm going to beat you one-on-one. I have more talent than you do. And he's not even putting himself necessarily into those situations to demonstrate that talent. He's electing just to sort of peter off and let the rest of everyone get back into the play. That, to me, he just doesn't seem right, Dave. And we've talked about this ad nauseum, I would suggest.
Well, I mean, look, Mark Scheifele is never going to be, Patrice Bergeron. He's not a guy you're ever going to.
Guy Carbonneau.
Or Guy Carbonneau. I don't think he does spinoramas. But I think what it comes down to is he's not going to be a player who we're, looking at for defensive acumen. So that's I don't think is going to be a. Wait, well, what do you mean? Sorry, Kenny's water balls questioning my commitment to illegal curve. Kenny, look at this. Illegal curve hat, illegal curve sticks, illegal curve toque, illegal curve puck, illegal curve hat, another illegal curve.
Yeah,
hat.
But you've got to turn the hat around, Manuk. Come on, we got to see the IC logo.
Or at the very least, you need a bigger.
There you go.
You need a bigger logo on the.
I don't want my IC to ever be questioned here. Although this hat is the. I've got a few others. I got a black one, navy.
After watching that game, boys, I don't know about you, but I could really go for a Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper's just everywhere in that rink.
Well,
we were
Dr.
there.
Pepper's. I know we were there. We were at that rink. Dr. Pepper it was, I think, founded in Dallas or something. It was founded in Texas, so that's near and dear to the hearts of the good folks in the Lone Star State. It is. I do enjoy a Dr. Pepper. That is probably my favorite soft drink.
What about Dr. Skipper, Drew?
Well, that's the knockoff version of it, and I'm all about the original when it comes to my Dr. Pepper consumption. There you go, Waco, Texas. Thank you. In Svetch we trust, PLD. Waco, Texas.
Waco should be known for that and not the other thing.
Home of the Branch Davidians.
Exactly.
Anyways, so back to Mark Scheifele. Look, I mean, it is what he is. He is what he is. And he's, like I said, he's not a defensive specialist. So, I mean, you don't expect it. And maybe they should do what they did with Kyle Connor. Maybe they'll get an improved defensive player if they give him some PK time, because look, it's worked fairly good for Kyle Connor. He had a nice shorthanded chance with Andrew Kopp in the game. And I would argue that Kyle Connor's defensive play has definitely improved with his, being on the penalty kill. So I'm not suggesting that maybe putting Mark Scheifele might be a bit of a nuclear option, but you never know. Maybe it'll have some sort of impact on him. But look, I really don't think he was entirely at fault for tonight's game. I think that it was, it's just, a game where the first period was fairly even. Obviously, Ben had that easy goal that he missed with a nice little pitching wedge, chipped it up and over the Jets net, because that should have obviously been in the back of the net. And instead, you've got a 0-0 game after one, and the Jets looked like that Pierre-Luc Dubois, as he said, that tip was beautiful. And he didn't look like a player, like I had said, that only skated once in 10 days and dealt with COVID. So I think you had some things to build on, but it seemed like you had that Pittsburgh moment where you kind of fell asleep. And as a result, it's the problem for this Jets team is you're not in a position to be laissez-faire or casual, and you just can't afford to have these lapses. And so they did, and they weren't able to build on the good feelings of the Pierre-Luc Dubois, goal that made it 1-0. And as a result, Dallas scores once and then scores twice to to put that game away. And like I said, there are a bunch of guys. Adam Lowry made a mistake on one of the goals. Neil Pionk on that pinch made a mistake on one of the goals. So it's it's a benefit of the team is that it's a collective. A lot of guys are making mistakes, but it still doesn't matter. It doesn't change the fact that you have not put yourself into a position where you can afford to be costing yourself points, and that's what they're doing.
Well, now you are in a situation where you go into Nashville tomorrow against a very good Nashville Predators team where, you can't afford to not earn at least a point. You can't come back from this short 2-game road trip having only earned 1 out of 4 points, no matter how well you played tonight or no matter what you play like tomorrow night. It's just, that's just the reality of being behind the 8 ball, and the hole that they've dug for themselves is that moral victories aren't something that they can possibly be satisfied with. And that's, you're really asking for a difficult task tomorrow heading into Nashville. If you were able to get the win today, if you're able to, even if it came in overtime or had it gone to a shootout, whatever it might be, you say you already got 1 win on the road trip, so you're probably feeling tolerably okay about yourself. Instead, you only get the 1 point. Now you really got to dig deep and find a way to earn at least another point, if not 2, tomorrow against the Predators, and then it really becomes a road trip where you can say that this is a successful road trip. But only getting 1 tonight, that's the reality of it. You need 2 tomorrow.
Drew, I think what is probably the most disconcerting about tonight's game, aside from the obvious that you don't get the extra point in overtime / the shootout, if it went to the shootout, was the fact that the Jets put together 4 straight periods of almost flawless defensive hockey, right? Like that first period, Jamie Benn should have scored there. But aside from that, I can't remember Dallas having really any decent scoring chances in the first period. That was really the only one.
A prototypical perfect road game in that first 20 minutes.
And the Jets didn't really have that. We talked about Dubois on the power. They had the 1 power play. Like it was, Drew mentioned, it was a pretty boring, low event first period. But then, you go into the second period and Dave, I think, makes a really good point. A lot of similarities between the Pittsburgh game. Jets are playing really well, outplaying and outscoring the Penguins. And then the Penguins score, 2 goals in 9 seconds or something like that.
Exactly.
And, and then the game's tied. And then obviously Pittsburgh goes on and wins, right? But I think you don't like the fact that you had that many mistakes in a game in which you were outplaying Dallas for certain parts. Like, there were parts of that game where, Dallas really didn't have much going. And then especially when they killed off I think it was the Dylan DeMello penalty, if I'm not mistaken, right? Was it DeMello that took the penalty in the second period?
DeMello took a cross-checking penalty. I think
no, it wasn't DeMello. Maybe it was DeMello. I forget now, guys. But
in the second period, there was a Pionk hooking penalty and a DeMello cross-checking penelty, right. And then the fighting penalty for Dylan, right. But obviously not that one because I was
going to mention this too. Play. A few people in the comments made the point like you hate to see those types of fights. I agree. Like I don't think Brendan Dillon has to answer for a very clean hit. I agree with you, Drew. There's nothing wrong with that hit. But what I thought was so funny about that is Dylan obviously used to play with Dallas, right? Mm-hmm. So obviously, I don't know how close Dylan and Ben are, but you could tell that, that was one of those fights where, okay, let's just get it over with.
Brendan Dillon and Jamie Benn have been through this league more times, have been up and down this league so many times. They don't mind that kind of fight.
And Drew, you could see them in the penalty box because I'm pretty sure they went to commercial and they were laughing, right? So it wasn't like one of those fights where the guys were like Ben was really pissed off at Dylan or anything.
It wasn't the Foligno Lowry fight from Tuesday night,
and that's why the rematch is going to be so interesting, not just for the Lowry Foligno dynamic. By the way, do you think Dylan and Lowry now have to settle who has more fights in a short period of time because they both have 2 fights in the last couple of games, right? But I just think going back to what I was saying before, I just think that's what's so disconcerting is the word I use, but disappointing, whatever word you want to use, guys, is that, the Jets don't end up getting a couple of points in a game in which they played pretty well for, I would say, 2 periods out of it. The third period wasn't great. And then they had the period of the second period, there was like that little stretch there where they just kind of let Dallas back into the game.
The first 5 minutes of the third period, though, Ezzy, the Jets were terrific. Dallas couldn't get out of their own zone. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you that the Jets. Okay, look, if this was game 5 or game 10 of the season, people would probably say, yeah, they played pretty decently. It was an okay game. It's unfortunate that they weren't able to get 2 points, but we'll take the 1 point. The problem is the Jets aren't in a position right now where they can do that. And then I think, what you saw is sort of in that second and the third period, the game opened up a little bit. And I don't know if the Jets can play that way successfully. I mean, I don't know that is, even today, even at game 44, I'm still not sure what the Jets' recipe for success is. Is it absolutely tight checking and stifling the opponent? Well, I mean, I think that always works, but it only usually works in very, very short spurts. The second from the halfway mark of the second period through the end of the game, can the Jets play in a back and forth sort of more open style? Is that a way that they can succeed? Well, I mean, they got 3 goals tonight, and they were all even strength except for the Scheifele one, which of course was with the net empty. So it wasn't, this is a Jets team that has struggled to score 2 goals at 5-on-5.
It's like they're kind of a hybrid, Drew. Like that's really what we've seen from the Jets. I'm not saying that they're calling themselves a hybrid, but I think we've seen this type of game. How many times have we seen this type of game this year? Like you mentioned, 44 games. Like we've seen this type of game where the Jets have 1 or 2 good periods. Or, I mean, I always think it's an oversimplification to necessarily just look at periods. But let's say, they had moments in the game where they were good and moments in the game where they were bad. You can say that about a lot of teams. Well, exactly. Every inconsistent team. And that's what I was going to say. Like, are the Jets is that going to be the 2021-22 Jets? Are they just a really talented team that were inconsistent? Like, I don't know. Like, at this point in the season, I still think the Jets have a shot at the playoffs, not just mathematically, but I do think now that they're healthy and they're going to get Ehlers back eventually, not tomorrow, but they're going to get Ehlers back eventually. And aside from Ehlers, they're relatively healthy, right, guys? So this is the roster that you're going to see for the next 2 or 3 weeks. So, this is do or die time. We talked about how important the stretch was, and that goes back to what I said before, why it's just so disappointing. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but the game against Minnesota was really impressive. Great to see Hellebuck get a shutout again. And I thought, this game was trending in the right direction. And like Dave said, similar to the Pittsburgh game, 2 goals in under a minute. And I mean, obviously they tie it up, but it just was one of those games that got away from them.
It certainly did get away from them. Let's go to break. When we come back, more on tonight's Jets and Stars game. Dave will give us an update on what's going on with the Moose. It's not good in Abbotsford, so Dave will probably have a shorter Manitoba Moose minute. There you go. He's mentioning it'll be that short. We'll give you an update on Canada versus the U.S. at the Olympics. That's going on right now. Lots going on, lots happening. Don't go anywhere. Smash the like button. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. You know what you need to do. We'll be right back on the Illegal Curve post-game show.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
He winds up. Oh, looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouth guard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rollies Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Boys, finding parking on game day shouldn't take longer than the Minute Minute.
It shouldn't take longer than 1 minute?
Yeah, less than a minute? I spend at least 20 driving around to find street parking, or if I'm in a rush to the game, I'll shovel out 20 at a parkade.
You're both doing it wrong. There's this app called Grid Park. It lets you find and pre-book your parking spot on game days, and you can reserve your spot up to 1 month in advance. And guess how much you'll pay?
Tell me, Dave. You know I love a deal.
Ezzy, $5.
Come on, $5?
Yeah, and it's just 2 blocks from the arena.
The Grid Park app?
Yep, spelled GRYD Park. And you know what else?
There's more?
Our listeners get their first park free with the code FIRSTPARK.
Wow, so they just download the Grid Park app and pre-book their next game day spot for free?
Yeah, you got it, Ez. Promo code FIRSTPARK. Only on the Grid Park app.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com.
Whether it's watching the game with friends, pizza night with the family, or date night for two, this holiday season, give the gift of special occasions. Get a free $10 promo card when you buy a $50 gift card from Boston Pizza. Because nobody regifts pizza.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the Illegal Curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. Shortly before 11 in the evening, welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg with you. A reminder, 9 a.m. tomorrow, we'll be back here for the Illegal Curve hockey show. The three of us, Kenny Wiebe is going to join us as well for an interview, and Scott Wheeler of The Athletic, who did a real in-depth piece on some Winnipeg Jets prospects. He's going to join us as well on the show tomorrow, so be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you won't miss a minute of any of our Illegal Curve programming, and you can join us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. and then again tomorrow night for the Illegal Curve post-game show after
muted
the Jets
me?
and the Predators. I muted Dave, and I muted you by accident.
That wasn't me.
Why
That
did you mute me?
noise you're hearing, that's Dave. Don't mute me, Dave.
You were making noise. I could hear noise being picked up on your mic there.
I'm not doing anything.
You were doing something. You were doing something. You're up to no good.
Who made you the mute king, Drew?
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
I have the
I'll
power.
remove you right from this chat if you want.
I think we should have a mutiny here.
Oh, very clever there, Ezzy.
Like that?
Instead of having a
I'm
mutiny,
a clever
why
guy,
don't-
Drew. You never give me credit.
I said you were I said that was clever. Instead of having a mutiny, why don't we have a Manitoba Moose minute instead? The Moose in action in Abbotsford.
Put on your antlers. It's time for the Manitoba Moose Minute on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
Well, this is going to be the shortest Manitoba Moose minute because they're actually still playing right now in Abbotsford. They got Declan Chisholm back, who was returned to them after they obviously got Neil Pionk and Pierre-Luc Dubois back for the lineup. So the Jets sent him back, and he's back in the lineup, paired alongside his fellow, fifth rounder, but they're different years, 2017, 2018, Leon Gavanke. They've shown they have phenomenal chemistry. They look really good together. The Moose, unfortunately, do not look so good. They came out got a little bit shell shocked. They gave up the opening goal. Leon Gavanke, who is a right shot defenseman who doesn't really get a lot of attention, but he's got a nice shot and he's had a really good rebound season. He deserves a little bit of love. He doesn't really seem to get it any, but because I know we tend to focus on the left side with Chisholm and Sandberg and Heinola, but the right side with Kovacevic and Gavanke and now Lundmark as well. But Gavanke is one guy. He's really nicely rebounded from a poor season for him last year to a really nice season for him. He's got 6 goals But shortly thereafter, the 2013 second rounder for the Winnipeg Jets, Nick Patan, scored 2 goals to make it a 3-1 game. And then the Canucks scored 2 more goals to make it 5-1 after 20 minutes. They scored another goal in the second period to make it 6-1, which is where it stands. So Arvid Holm, who took the net from Mikkel Burden, he's getting a little bit shellacked, which is not something we've seen from this Moose team. So this will be a bit of a wake-up call for them. But they're getting a bit of a warm welcome from the Abbotsford Canucks, and it's not looking so good. So I wouldn't be predicting any sort of comeback, but we'll see what happens. They have a rematch tomorrow, so we'll see if the Moose respond accordingly tonight. Of course, it's going to end up being like a 7-6 Moose final, and I'll have to eat my words, but I would be happy to. That'd be an interesting story to tell, but right now it doesn't look good for the Manitoba Moose.
Yes.
Dave, how was my boy Madison Bowie playing?
He had a lot of penalties in the first period. He had 3 different penalties. In fact, Leon Gavanke's goal was on, I think he scored 6 or 8 seconds into the first of it. It was a double minor he took in the first period. So he had 3 penalties that I saw in the first period. Actually, hold on, let me see. He had none in the second. So he kept it clean in the second. He got a high sticking, and then he got an unsportsmanlike, which led to a 4-minute call.
There you go. There is tonight's Manuk Moose Minute. We'll give you a final score update tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show as the Moose are in battle in Abbotsford against the Canucks. And I guess this Moose team that has been so good for so long this year, it's a surprise every time that they're getting taken to the woodshed a little bit. And that's what's happening on the left coast of Canada.
I would say it's not
evening.
I wouldn't say it's a surprise. I would say it's never happened, at least this season, that I can recall that they've been this badly beaten. So we'll see what the final score is, but it is it's not looking good in Abbotsford.
Not looking good in Abbotsford as well, but it is someone's going to look good wearing a Tough Duck toque for the hardest hitting comment on tonight's post-game show. Mr. Ginsburg, who is the lucky winner of a toque from our friends at Tough Duck?
Tonight's hardest hitting comment is going to go to Robert Palmer. Robert, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think you've won yet. I don't keep track of this. I just kind of, have a memory of who's won Tough Duck Toques.
We're quite the professional operation here, folks.
No, I mean, well, you guys are professional, but I mean, I kind of have a good idea of who we've given away probably. Well, I mean, we're in game 44. So a few people haven't emailed me. So those people can still email me, but we're going to give it to Robert. You've got the comment up there. 55 is very talented and can play with the best, but there's something up here. He looks like a deer in a lion compound. I like that. It's not all his fault. But the Jets need the lion, not the deer. I just like the metaphor there. But it's clear, guys, even though, Mark Scheifele ties the game up tonight and he picked up an assist on Harkin's goal. I mean, his game the entire season just hasn't been where it's been the last however many years, 4 or 5 years. The point of game Scheifele, the best offensive player, the best overall player on the Jets isn't there. So I think, I really like that comment from Robert. So you're going to win a toque from Tough Duck, the hardest hitting comment. Send me an email, ezra@illegalcurve.com. Just send me your mailing address. I promise I won't come stalk you.
It gets sent in the mail as he doesn't hand deliver these things. Don't worry.
I don't hand deliver them. Tough Duck is going to ship it out to you. So congrats, Robert. I know Robert is in here a lot watching the post-game shows and the Saturday shows. So we appreciate it and enjoy the toque.
There you go, Robert. Congratulations. You're the winner of tonight's Tough Duck hardest.
He's never won one, and he's looking forward to. He's happy to have one.
Yeah,
there you go.
Especially given the fact that the weather is not going to be any. We had one nice day yesterday, but it is going to stay cold. So, Robert, you're going to need that too.
This is one of the worst all-time winters. If we're going to get into that and do a little bit of a climate report here,
we're not.
This winter can end anytime. It can F off. I mean, this has just been. It's just it snows every second day. It's been -30 every day. Then it's +1, and then there's ice. Driving around, River Heights it's ridiculous. It's like
the ruts are insane.
They are. There's Ezzy's complaining about the weather.
Go home, old man winter.
I will say, by the way, sorry. So the Manuk Moose report wasn't exciting, but I will say that Jets 2021 first rounder Chaz Lucius had a goal and an assist, including an assist on the game-winning goal for the University of Minnesota as the Gophers won 3-2, I think, against Wisconsin. Was it Wisconsin or Ohio? I can't remember who they defeated, but they defeated one of those two teams. And so Chaz Lucius is up to 9 goals and 9 assists on the season. Nice goal. We've got it on the Twitter and the Illegal Curve Instagram, so you can see it there. But he's having a good kind of he didn't start off very strong. We can ask Scott Wheeler about Chaz Lucius tomorrow. And then I saw some folks asking about Nathan Smith. I know, Drew, you're going to do an update on the Team Canada USA game, but I don't know if he's got any points. And someone said he caused one of the turnovers. So, sorry, just a quick, because we haven't talked about Kevin Cheveldayoff's comments, is his midseason availability, which obviously we wouldn't do tonight, but we will probably do tomorrow in depth. But I thought his comments about Nathan Smith were interesting because people were asking about him, and he said that they had gone to dinner after the St. Louis game. He flew to Minnesota and had dinner with Nathan Smith. And so my suspicion would be Minnesota State is going to go on probably a national championship run. And if they win, there's a good chance that we'll see, like my prediction, if I'm going to put my prognostication hat on, is I think what we're going to see is an Andrew Kopp situation where they sign him to a deal so he can burn in the ear of his ELC this year and he'll play, whatever he ends up playing. But I could very easily see that being the enticement to get Smith, who they still have control till 2023, but I could see them trying to entice him out of school this year, especially if Minnesota State does end up winning the national championship.
There you go, Dave M. with the Nathan Smith NCAA report that I'm clearly now going to have to stay up all night creating a video for an intro screen of some sort. But in any event, what I was going to say, Robert, congratulations. You're the Tough Duck hardest hitting comment on tonight's post-game show. Send Ezzy that email, or you can send him a DM at ICEZZG. We want to say a big thank you to Tough Duck. Say a big thank you to all of our sponsors, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, Bernstein Deli, Boston Pizza, Seagram's, Rolly's Transfer, and Grid Park. They support Illegal Curve Hockey, so you should support these fine businesses because of they make this show and tomorrow morning show and all the post-game shows and the website a possibility. Update from Beijing, it is 3-1. The United States over Team Canada. They're in the second period there. Canada opened the scoring. They came out as the proverbial house on fire. They scored the opening goal. The U.S. was able to weather the Canadian storm, and they're now up 3. They've scored 3 unanswered and lead Canada 3-1. And if you're a curling fan, you may have seen while the Jets game was going on, Jen Jones dropped her second consecutive game in curling, losing to Sweden. She was unable to pull off the double in the 10th end that would have gotten her the victory. It came down to a measurement. She only scored 1 instead of 2, and as a result, she lost, I believe it was 7-6, if I'm not mistaken, to Sweden. And that's your Olympic curling update, in addition to your Olympic hockey update. Hurry hard, Ezzy. Well, there was a time on a Friday night like tonight, I would have been curling and still at the curling club, tipping a few beverages back. Instead, I've been in my pajamas since my kids went to bed at about 7:15.
For those, the regular viewers and listeners know the name, but those who don't know the name, Win, Loser, Drew. It's tough like that. It's tough to top that name. It's one of the best names of all time.
It was a good team name. It was a good team name. Win, lose, or Drew. We lost more often than not, but clearly we were there just for the beer and nothing else. So in that sense, we were all winners.
That sounds like the story of my life. I'm just there for the beer.
It's true. Yeah, that is the story of our life, or a lot of our lives. There's no question about that.
People don't know this, but Dave gives me 6 beers after every postgame show.
Anything to get you out of the house. He's got a 6-pack waiting for you in the snow, and you chase after it, and he slams the door behind you and locks it. It's whatever it takes.
I actually just give Ezzy a big thing of Fireball. And he
there you go. That works too. Courtesy of our good friends at Seagram's, of course. In any event, the Jets, they were hoping to have some post-game victorious beers. Instead, tonight they were not. They lose 4-3 in overtime. They gain a point, but they really needed 2. They have tomorrow night. They can redeem themselves. They're on the plane probably already, if not momentarily from now, heading to Nashville, where they'll face the Predators tomorrow night. No word yet on who the starting goaltender will be for the Jets tomorrow.
It'll probably be Hellebuck or Comrie.
I can't. That's the best analysis. I can't do anything more with after that analysis.
By the way, quick update. 7-1 Abbotsford.
There you go. I thought it was going to go the other way. I thought you were going to say it's like 6-5 Abbotsford or something. Instead, they're pouring it on in BC. In any event, 9 a.m. tomorrow, come back here to our Illegal Curve YouTube channel. As I mentioned, Ken Weeb's going to join us. He might just be doing the Kenny and Rennie post-game show, might go straight through the night, right until Kenny joins us tomorrow morning.
It's Billick.
Oh, is it Billick? Where's Rennie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm not his keeper.
You're not your Rennie's keeper. It's true. Okay,
I'm
so
not.
that's happening over on the Kenny and Rennie YouTube channel. You can go check that out as we wrap it up here. But join us back here at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Scott Wheeler in the hour number 2 with some great Winnipeg Jets prospect talk. So it's always fun to get that kind of conversation going, especially as it looks like prospects might be more important than playoffs this coming year for the Winnipeg Jets. In any event, for Dave Manouk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Smash the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our podcast. Tell a friend that they should subscribe and watch us each and every time we go live as well. Until tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. For Dave M., for Ezzy Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Thanks for watching the Illegal Curve postgame show. We wish you good night and good luck.